Welcome back everyone to the channel. I just want to say I appreciate you guys being here for just a couple minutes of your day. I appreciate you guys. This is a book review of a classic that is over 100 years old, and honestly, I've never read it. So this is even better. And that is going to be War of the World. It was just a quick little palate cleanser that I wanted to read. I've been wanting to read a lot more sci-fi. I've just been struggling with sci-fi, so I figured, why not try this? This isn't like the first sci-fi book. I always thought it was, and then I did like more research, and it was actually Frankenstein. So we gotta give Mary Shelley the credit that she deserves. Just saying, she was pretty goated. War of the World, pretty good actually. I read this book in 2 sittings, I believe. Doing every single one of my reviews is I talk about the likes and dislikes, and then I just kind of go from there. And the only thing I want to talk about is the dislikes for this book, and I have 2. Now the 2 that I have isn't like wild or anything, and it's not because it's dated. To me, when I read classic books, I don't sit there and think, oh, the language is different, the way they would say different words that are used now is different. I don't really think about that. I go in with an open mind and understand, like, hey, this was like these words or whatever was used during this time, so I don't think too deeply about it. And that's just my approach every time I read any of these older books. My dislikes for it is the first half of this book is actually pretty sick. It's the second part that felt like it just dragged on for far too long, where it kind of just takes you out of it. And that's why I just didn't really like the most about this book. Other than that, I was actually really digging this book. And my other dislike about it is I felt like his writing is really good, but the problem is, for me with writing, is he would have like a 1 page would just have like 2 giant paragraphs. I feel like this could have been cut up to at least maybe 4 or 5 paragraphs instead of these just 2 giant blocks. It's been so many times that was happening in this book that I was just like, oh my god. Those are only my dislikes. Like I said, nothing too wild, and I really enjoyed this book a lot. I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars before we get into like the likes. So one thing I will say that I do like about this book is so the book is broken up into 2 parts. It says book 1 and book 2. And the first half of this book is really solid, fast paced. I'm pretty sure I read the first book in 1 sitting, if I remember, because like every page was like only like 4 or 5 pages. Then the next chapter, you kind of start right off the get-go where the aliens from Mars just drops down like right off the rip, and I really enjoyed that presence. I enjoyed that so much because, you know, with older books, I'm just used to reading older books, but it just takes forever to get to like the plot. Now H.G. Wells just like boom, just drops them, and so you spend like 2 chapters, if I can remember, figuring out what the hell's going on, and then once it happens, it's like, holy crap! Like things get wild after that, and I really enjoyed it. Like the way he writes about like this war of like the literal wars going on, it's so interesting, and I didn't expect myself to actually enjoy it as much as I did. I kept going through this book because I was like, what the hell is the main character's name? And never once you are told what the main character's name is through this whole book. And I think that's just like so genius, honestly. And I think it's more fun, and I think it's just better that way because it just puts you in it more. Like you feel like, man, this is actually me, I guess. That's how I always felt like when I was reading this book. I felt like I was like more personally in this book because you didn't know what the main character's name is. And I think that was like one of the ploys that he was trying to do with this book. It was just so much fun reading that. Like I said, I think the first half of this book was actually just, most of this book was taken by first person POV, and then there was like 2 chapters where you got to hang out with his cousin, which was fine, I guess. And with his cousin, it got to really show you the war of the world, because the second half of the book you don't really like get to experience the war part, which to me was kind of upsetting. But at the same time, you get to see this main character go from how he starts to how he like is progressing through this world, and you get to meet so many different characters. And it reminded me back in 2020 with the virus that shall not be named. I don't know if you're allowed to say that name, the virus anymore. When we had the virus, you got to it reminded me so much of that time when there was just so many things. Everyone's having all these different opinions and minds, and they're like, oh, this is happening, no, this is happening. And there was so much misinformation that was going through that, and it felt like the same thing with this. Like there was a part in the second half of this book where he meets a soldier, and the soldier was like talking about how he's like, we're gonna live in tunnels, we're gonna just live in the sewer, and we're gonna find all the only the most able men and the able women to do everything. Anyone else that's just too weak, we're not taking them. And it really just like set home for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, this would legit happen. Like there's been so many scenarios where you just sit there and think like, would this actually happen? And it makes sense that it would, honestly. So for me, I really did enjoy a lot of this book because it really felt a lot like home, especially for a book that was over 100 years old now. It's amazing of how much work he has done. Now, he could, like, if this book was written for more of a modern audience, I think it could be changed up. But honestly, to me, I don't really care. I'm not the type that wants to be updated things. I like them how they are, personally, for any books, movies, or anything. I don't want anything updated for a modern audience or anything. I think this book is perfectly fine the way it is. And I give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't want to change anything. I'm just gonna leave it to that. I'm really happy though for my first sci-fi book I've read in a long time. I think since Frankenstein I actually finished and enjoyed, so which says a lot. But this was a solid book, and I think everyone should read it. You know, why not? It's less than 200 pages. Look how small this book is. It took me 2 days to read. If you guys made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. Make sure you guys check out all my socials down below, and let me know how you guys felt about War of the Worlds. Did you guys also like War of the Worlds, or did you not like it? Do you think the things that H.G. Wells was saying in this book was accurate or fun or whatever? Or did you guys just not care? I want to know everything down below. And of course, make sure you guys stay safe, stay hungry, and tell someone you love them. I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.